$11,000. That's what somebody paid for a single Hot Wheels car, a toy that cost less than $1 when it first hung on a store peg. The difference between that car and the one sitting forgotten in your old toy box? A shade of purple. That's what makes these little cars so dangerous to overlook. The valuable version can sit right beside the common one for decades. Same shape, same size, sometimes almost the same color, and unless you know exactly which detail to check, you'd never tell them apart. A roof finish, a country stamp underneath, a window opening that shouldn't be there, one wrong clue, and a $1,000 car looks like a $5 car. I'm counting down 10 specific Hot Wheels with documented completed sale prices, not asking prices, not dealer guesses, not some number a seller stuck on a listing and hoped for. These come from auction house records, archived eBay results, WorthPoint, and established Redline databases, where a real buyer actually paid real money. One thing to keep in mind before we start: the year stamped on the bottom of your car doesn't always tell you when it was made. That stamp might mark when the casting was copyrighted or when the tooling was first cut, which is exactly why the Red Baron and the Mexican Greased Gremlin get mislabeled so often. Don't trust the date alone. Number 10 starts with a car that Mattel didn't make valuable. A man with a red felt pen did that all by himself. At number 10 is a blue 1969 Beatnik Bandit, still sealed on its original card. That's the cardboard-backed blister package, with the matching round collector button tucked beside it. Flip that card over, though, and this stops being an ordinary sealed Redline. The Beatnik Bandit was part of the very first Hot Wheels wave. It showed up in 1968 as one of the original 16, copied straight from Ed Big Daddy Roth's full-size bubble-domed custom car. Those first-year singles cost about 59 cents, and they hung near the model kits at the 5 and dime, the kind of store where the wooden floors creaked and everything smelled like cardboard and plastic. Most kids ripped the bubble open before the family made it to the parking lot, so finding one still sealed already feels like something. But sealed packaging isn't what created the real value here. This particular car belonged to Roth himself, and later came from the collection of his son, Darryl. At some point, Roth signed the back of the card in red felt pen and wrote 94 next to his name, connecting the toy directly to the man who designed the real Beatnik Bandit. On January 31, 2021, Van Eaton Galleries sold it for a $400 hammer price, before the buyer's premium. That result wasn't for blue paint. It was for the signature, the sealed condition, and a straight ownership line back to the Roth family. All three together. If you've got a carded Beatnik Bandit, flip the card. Look for the red signature and the 94 date. Make sure the bubble's still sealed and the collector button's still in place. A loose blue car, an unsigned card, or an autograph that can't be traced back to the family. That's a different thing entirely. But number 9 didn't need a famous name on the back. Its clue was printed right on the package, and plenty of parents wheeled their cart straight past it without a second look. Number 9 is the 1995 Treasure Hunt 67 Camaro. Pearl white with orange stripes running over the hood and trunk, an orange interior, and rubber Real Rider tires sitting on deep dish rims. Back in 1995, this car hung on the pegs right beside every other dollar Hot Wheels at Kmart, Woolworths, Toys R Us, wherever you happened to be shopping, while your kids disappeared into the action figure aisle. Nothing about the peg price screamed, "Save this." Nothing on the outside said, "Limited." You'd have walked right past it while looking for the one your child actually pointed at. Here's what nobody mentioned at the register. 1995 was the very first year Mattel ran the Treasure Hunt series. They made only 10,000 of this Camaro. 10,000 out of millions of regular Hot Wheels flooding store shelves that same year. That turned a regular-looking toy into one of the company's earliest numbered chase cars, and most shoppers had no idea the program even existed. A carded example later completed an eBay sale for $931. But not every white 67 Camaro qualifies. The card should show collector number 355 and 3 of 12, with item number 13051. On the car itself, you need pearl white paint, not flat white, orange stripes, an orange interior, and an unpainted Malaysia base. The tires should be rubber Goodyears on the correct deep dish Real Rider rims. Later 67 Camaros can fool you at a glance. Newer treasure hunts, ordinary white releases, and cars where someone pressed on rubber wheels after the fact. None of those are this car. If the card number, paint finish, base marking, and wheels don't all agree, it isn't the first-year treasure hunt. Number 8 is older, louder, and even easier to confuse with something common. The whole difference comes down to one patch of dull black paint, and it's sitting right on top of the car. That patch belongs to the red 1971 Boss Hoss from Mattel's Spoilers series. Made only in Hong Kong, and only some of them got the flat black roof treatment. The Boss Hoss name first showed up on a silver mail-away car in 1970, offered through the Collectors Club. A year later, colored versions landed on regular store pegs, but Mattel only gave a smaller batch that dull, flat black painted roof. And it wasn't random. Mattel was copying the vinyl tops that were all over real muscle cars at the time. Full-size Challengers, Chargers, Monte Carlos, half the dealer lot had that dark vinyl roof in 1971. Mattel used flat black paint to fake the look on a 3-inch toy, and most kids never even realized what the paint was supposed to represent. If you grew up during those muscle car years, you already know this shape. You probably sketched something just like it in the margins of your school notebook, while the teacher thought you were taking notes. Low, loud, covered in racing numbers, and way more interesting than whatever was on the chalkboard. A red black roof Boss Hoss completed an eBay auction at $1,050. But an ordinary solid roof version? Those show up far more often, and the price difference is steep. Flip yours over. Confirm Hong Kong on the base. Then check for the louvered rear section, original Redline wheels, factory racing decoration, and a roof with a flat, slightly dull finish. Not shiny, not glossy, not freshly painted. That finish is the detail that catches people. Sellers have repainted ordinary roofs to fake the factory look, and a fresh coat of black over a common car doesn't turn it into the real variation. If the black looks too smooth, too even, or too clean compared to the age of the rest of the car, someone probably added it later. Number 7 jumps the price up again, but here's the catch. The car by itself isn't worth what this entry sold for. The money lived inside the box around it. At number 7 is Mattel's 1969 Drag Chute Stunt Set, factory sealed with the original split-in image car and collector button still visible through the packaging. This was the kind of toy no child on earth was expected to leave in the box. You tore it open, clamped the orange track to the kitchen table, sent the car screaming through a loop, launched it off a ramp, and watched the tiny parachute jerk it to a stop right before it flew off the edge. If you had one, you probably remember orange track snaking from the kitchen table all the way into the hallway, and at least one adult warning you not to crank that universal clamp against the good furniture. That play pattern is exactly why a sealed survivor is nearly impossible to find. Track sections got bent, joiners wandered off one by one, the instructions hit the garbage, and that oversized cardboard box? Crushed flat and carried to the curb before the new year. On November 20th, 2024, Heritage Auctions sold a factory-sealed example for $1,093.75. 12 registered bidders competed for it. But that price covered the complete untouched set as a whole. Every piece of track, every joiner, every ramp, the loop, the parachute brakes, the chute trap, the clamp, the instructions, the catalog, and the splitten image with its collector button, all sealed and unused. If you've got an opened box, lay out every piece and compare before assuming it matches what Heritage sold. Missing parachutes, connectors, or paperwork create a very different situation. And don't apply that price to a loose splitten image either. Mattel sold that car separately in the regular Hot Wheels range. The value here belongs to the sealed, complete, nothing-ever-touched set. The next car doesn't need a giant box, a signature, or a fancy package. Flip it over, read the country stamp, check the wheels, and you'll know in about 5 seconds. Number 6 is the red Greased Gremlin, made for the Mexican market, fitted with large rubber Real Rider tires and solid white hubs. Here's the first thing most online lists get wrong. This valuable version dates to 1987, not 1983. The Greased Gremlin casting first appeared in 1979, but the white hub Mexican Real Riders configuration came years later, near the tail end of the original Real Riders production run. If you see a website calling it a 1983, they've got the wrong year, and possibly the wrong car. Anyone who collected Hot Wheels through the 80s remembers the test. You'd press a thumbnail into the tire to check whether it was real rubber. The Real Riders were heavier in your hand, grippier against the floor, and they stuck to the track in a way the hard plastic wheels never could. You could feel the difference before you even looked. This version came from a short-lived Mexican production run, and the combination of Mexican manufacture, large construction-style rubber tires, and those unusual white hubs didn't exist on standard Greased Gremlins anywhere else in the world. That's a regional variation most collectors outside Latin America never even knew about until they started appearing in price guides. A packaged example completed an eBay sale at $1,427. To check yours, flip it over and confirm the Mexican country marking first. Then look at all 4 wheels. You need the large rubber tires with solid white hubs. Earlier Hong Kong and Malaysia versions almost always wear black plastic wheels, so they're easy to separate once you know what to look for. Wheel swaps are a real concern here, though. Someone can press rubber tires and white hubs onto an ordinary car after the fact, and it'll look right in photographs. Check the axle fit and the base rivets for signs of work. If the base looks like it's been opened or the hubs don't match the documented shape, it's worth getting a second opinion before you attach that price to it. But number 5 looks even more ordinary than this one. And the clue isn't something extra on the car. It's something that's missing from it entirely. Number 5 is a plain little Volkswagen Beetle, until you look at the roof. There's no sunroof hole, no sliding panel. This is the early copper 1968 Hong Kong Custom Volkswagen with a solid roof and no side windows. Mattel put the Custom Volkswagen into the very first Hot Wheels lineup. It wasn't promoted as limited or special in any way, just another brightly colored toy on the peg, waiting for a kid to grab it. But the earliest Hong Kong tooling had a completely closed body, solid roof, no side window cutouts, no sunroof. Mattel updated the design fairly quickly, adding the windows and the sliding sunroof that you'll find on most surviving examples. Before the change happened, the early version shipped mainly to Britain and Germany, so this isn't a deliberate collector edition. It's an accident of timing. Mattel changed the tooling, and a small number of the original body style wound up scattered through European toy boxes before the revised design became the only one on shelves. Nobody at Mattel thought anyone would care, and for about 2 decades, nobody did. The real Beetle was hard to miss in those years. By the late 60s, it seemed like every street had one parked somewhere. Your neighbor drove it to work. Your aunt kept one because it was cheap. Somebody's older brother wanted one for his first car because the insurance was nothing and it ran on fumes. It was everywhere, and so was the Hot Wheels version. until this early tooling disappeared. A copper no-sunroof example later sold on eBay for $2,600. But don't check just the roof and celebrate, because Mattel produced another sunroof-free Volkswagen years later with completely different construction. The early car should have a detailed Hong Kong base held by a single rivet, blue-tinted glass, and headlights formed as part of the metal base. Check the sides as well. The valuable early body has no side window openings at all. Most US examples have clear glass, 2 rivets, and the sliding sunroof. The later Hong Kong version also has the sunroof, and the 1974 Flying Colors retool uses different parts entirely, with through-hole wheels. If you find a solid roof Beetle, compare every feature: roof, sides, glass tint, rivet count, base, before you assume it's the early one. If you're enjoying this, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss next week's check. And if no guesswork research like this is useful to you, everything sourced, everything verified, drop a like so I know to keep them coming. Now, number 4 has a problem that no collector, no restorer, and no amount of money can fix. This car can destroy itself while it sits perfectly still inside a display case, and it doesn't need anyone's help to do it. At number 4 is the 1971 Spectraflame-purple bifocal, made in Hong Kong. Black interior, blue glass, and a clear plastic hood covering 2 exposed engines underneath. Larry Wood designed it around a wildly modified 1970 Dodge Challenger. With twin engines bulging out from under a see-through hood, this wasn't the car you'd spot sitting at a red light. It was the car every kid grabbed first when someone dumped out the toy box, because it looked fast even standing still, and the clear hood made you feel like you were looking at something you weren't supposed to see. But the bifocal carries a problem that has nothing to do with rough play, lost parts, or chipped paint. Some of these cars suffer from what collectors call crumbling disease. The Zamac, that's the zinc alloy Mattel used for the body, starts breaking down from inside the metal itself. It begins with swelling. Then hairline cracks crawl across the surface, and eventually, the entire body crumbles into gray metallic powder. A car can sit untouched inside a case for 40 years and still fall apart completely on its own. No child ever damaged it. Time did the job all by itself. Purple was already one of the hardest bifocal colors to find. Stack that scarce finish on top of a casting that's known to eat itself alive, and a clean, stable purple survivor turns into something most serious collectors have never even held in person. WorthPoint preserves a completed 2012 sale of a purple bifocal for $3,950. If you're checking one at home, bring it to a window. Natural daylight is the only reliable way to separate true purple from the warmer magenta that sellers regularly mislabel. True purple runs cooler and deeper. Magenta pulls toward pink. A photograph taken under yellow household bulbs will make both colors look wrong. So don't trust a picture. Trust your eyes, in daylight, next to a known reference. Then look closely at the body and base. Swelling near the seams, fine surface cracks, rough areas in the metal, or gray dust collecting near the axles. Any of those signs can mean the alloy's already started to go. And once it starts, nothing stops it. Aqua and magenta bifocals show up more often. Repainted bodies, replacement hoods, and cars with advanced metal decay don't carry the same value as an original, stable purple survivor, because stability is the whole point. This car has to have survived itself. Number 3 looks like a standard blue AMX from the outside. Nothing about the car alone will tip you off, but the card it's sealed on, and a tiny decal sheet that most children wrecked in about 30 seconds flat, that's where all the money hides. At number 3 is the Shaver Custom AMX. A blue, US-made car, sealed on a 1970 UK racing car series card with its original Ed Shaver decal sheet still untouched inside the bubble. The Custom AMX casting entered Mattel's range in 1969 with a white interior. The next year, a promotional Ed Shaver version appeared in Britain, tying Hot Wheels to Shaver's drag racing presence over there. Here's why this one fools people. Pull the blue car off its card, and you'd never know it was different from any other blue Custom AMX. The rarity, and every dollar of the value, lives in the original British racing package and that separate little sheet of promotional decals. And children did not go easy on tiny stickers. You peeled them off, tried to line them up on the doors, pressed out the wrinkles with a thumbnail, stuck at least one on crooked, and then tried to peel that one off and start over, which just tore it in half. The idea that a complete, untouched decal sheet could survive 50-plus years inside an unopened package is almost absurd. That's exactly why it's worth what it's worth. A carded example, with its original decal sheet, completed an eBay sale for $6,600 in 2018. That price wasn't for a loose blue AMX with freshly printed reproduction stickers slapped on after the fact. You need a blue US-made car with a white interior inside the correct UK racing car series card. The Ed Shaver decal sheet should still be separate and visible within the sealed bubble. Card condition matters, but authenticity matters more. Reproduction sheets exist, and someone can slip copied decals beside a regular blue AMX inside a resealed card. That doesn't create the real thing. The correct period card, the factory seal, and the original sheet all have to be present and genuine. If all you've got is the loose blue car, you might still have a decent vintage Redline, but you don't have the Ed Shaver version, and you're not in the same price conversation. Number 2 was never supposed to reach a toy store peg at all. One look at the white plastic inside it tells you exactly why. That white plastic belongs to a pre-production Red Baron. Lighter red paint, white interior, and a completely blank base. Mattel built this car while they were still developing the Red Baron for the 1970 Hot Wheels lineup. It never had a retail price. It was never meant to be sold. It wasn't built for children. It was built for a design bench. You'll sometimes see it described as a 1969 model because that year connects to the casting's copyright. But production Red Barons didn't reach store shelves until 1970, and the white interior never made it into the cars customers could actually buy. Every regular production Red Baron got a black interior instead. Only a small number of authentic white interior development pieces are known to exist. On December 31, 2018, one sold for exactly $7,500. And if you ever had a Red Baron growing up, you could spot it from across the room. That pointed German helmet roof, the exposed chrome engine, the military aircraft look. It was the car every kid noticed the second a cousin dumped out a toy box at a birthday party. Nobody had to explain what it was supposed to be. The shape did all the talking. But don't assume every Red Baron with white seats is a prototype. Reproduction interiors have been fitted inside ordinary cars, and a swapped part can look convincing in photographs. Start with the white interior, the lighter red finish, and the blank base, but don't stop there. A genuine example needs expert authentication and a traceable ownership history before anyone should attach prototype money to it. There's also a 1990s reproduction that's easier to catch. Flip it over and you'll see Made in China. The wheels have visible holes through their centers. Check the rear for a Hot Wheels decoration and a vintage series marking. All of those details point to the later remake, not a development car from before the casting ever reached production. So if you find a white interior Red Baron, here's the rule. Don't take it apart. Don't clean the rivets. Don't swap any pieces. Don't try to make it look better. Photograph it exactly the way you found it. Every angle, every detail. and let a Redline specialist examine the construction before you touch another thing. And now, number 1. This car wasn't built on a development bench. It wasn't a prototype or a mail-away exclusive. Mattel sold it to children on regular store pegs for regular pocket money. And that's exactly why finding the right survivor is harder than anything else on this list. Number 1 is the 1971 Olds 442 in genuine Spectraflame-purple. Not magenta, not a restored body wearing fresh purple paint. The real car has a USA base, white interior, opening hood, a separate plastic rear spoiler, and its correct factory-applied racing stickers. All original, all untouched. Mattel made the Olds 442 for just 1 year. Every single example came from the American plant. It wasn't a club exclusive, a prototype, or an experimental piece. It was a standard Hot Wheels car on a standard store peg, but production was low, and within that already small run, only a handful of true purple cars have ever been documented by serious collectors. That's the combination behind the $11,000 sale from the beginning of this video. A toy that once cost less than $1 became the most expensive car on this list because the casting disappeared after a single year. The purple color was exceptionally rare, even at the time, and almost nobody managed to keep one with every small original part still attached and unbroken. Flip it over and look for USA on the base. Confirm the white interior. Lift the opening hood and check the rear spoiler. It should be a separate plastic piece, not molded into the body. Now take it to a window. Under natural daylight, magenta has a warmer, pinker cast. True purple looks cooler and notably deeper. Don't rely on photographs taken under yellow household bulbs. They'll shift both colors and make you see things that aren't there. Daylight or a neutral light source is the only test that counts. Then turn it over one more time. Factory rivets should look completely untouched. No grinding marks, no drill holes, no ring of shiny fresh metal around the edges. Check the spoiler for replacement plastic that doesn't match the age of the car. Study the racing stickers for printing that's too bright, edges that are too crisp, or adhesive that looks decades newer than the body underneath it. Magenta and yellow Olds 442s turn up more often. They're still real vintage Redlines with their own collector value, but they aren't the purple version connected to that top sale. A repainted body, a replacement spoiler, or a freshly printed sticker sheet doesn't become genuine just because everything looks right from a few feet away. Close only counts in horseshoes, not in Redline collecting. This car takes me back to carrying one favorite Hot Wheels in a coat pocket whenever I went to visit a friend's house. You'd pat that pocket before you walked out the door, then check it again halfway home, because losing your fastest car at somebody else's house felt like a genuine emergency when you were 8 years old. That's what makes this Olds 442 so special. Nobody treated it like a museum piece. It was sold to children who raced it across kitchen floors, traded it on school playgrounds, chipped the paint on concrete sidewalks, bent the axles against table legs, and lost that tiny spoiler behind a sofa cushion. But somewhere, a few were put away carefully by a kid who loved this car a little more than the rest, and one could still be waiting in an old carrying case, a sewing box, or a desk drawer that hasn't been opened in 40 years. Before you clean, polish, repaint, or glue anything you find, stop. Trying to make an old Hot Wheels look newer can erase the exact evidence that gives it value. Sort your cars without fixing them. Photograph the base and country stamp, both sides, the roof, the wheels, the axles, the rivets, and the interior. Keep every card, collector button, sticker sheet, instruction page, and scrap of packaging found beside them. Don't repaint chipped bodies. Don't replace worn wheels. Don't polish a Spectraflame finish. Don't glue a loose spoiler back on. And whatever you do, don't crack open a sealed blister card. Collectors need to see what's original, even when the original condition isn't pretty. Tell me in the comments, which of these did you have? And be honest, did you keep yours, trade it away, or send it screaming down the driveway until the wheels finally popped off? I share new videos every week showing which old toys have documented collector value. Subscribe now so the next one doesn't slip past you, because once that box in the attic gets carried off for donation, those cars are gone for good. Next up, the old Barbie dolls families saved in those long cardboard boxes. The top doll set a $48,000 auction record at Therio's in 2023, and a few tiny details separate her from the later versions everybody else held on to.